What's up, y'all? Welcome to Mahogany Sweets. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. I wanted to come and talk to y'all real quick about black on black crime. We've all heard that phrase before. People are speaking about it now with the protests going on about police brutality. That the underlying issue too is race, hate, racism. So they're speaking about it now, saying how are we, some black people as well, saying how are we protesting blacks being killed by whites or white cops when there's crime that we are committing against ourselves, such as murder. So I wanted to come and speak to you guys about that. And I truly do sympathize with them, and I agree that blacks should not be committing crimes against other blacks, that we should not be murdering each other or harming each other to any capacity. It's unfortunate. But what I don't agree with is the concept of the comparison, the concept of saying, well, since black people have killed each other, then they don't have the right to be upset about cops, white people, and white cops killing black people. And it's an unfair comparison, and I'm going to explain to you why. Let's just talk about crime for one, all right? Crime. Crime happens for two reasons. One is either a person's moral compass is corrupt, their core values are corrupt, or secondly, because out of dire need, some necessity that they have, they feel it is the only means for their survival. So those are the two reasons why people commit crime, whether that be theft or selling drugs, things of that. But murder doesn't fall under, it only falls under one of them, which is having a moral corruption, having a moral deficiency, which has no race. Crime has no race. Crime is committed in every province, suburb, city, state, country, continent around the world. Crime happens, and it happens out of those two things. And a lot of people believe, which I believe there is data to back this up, that the more impoverished or lower education a person has, the more likely they supposedly are to commit crime. Now, although that might be true, we are very much aware of what they call white collar crime, right? Which means people who commit money laundering and things like that. They classify them as white collar crimes, and they happen all the time. And these are supposedly people who have great education, who have economic wealth, yet they're still committing crimes. And that's why it goes back to, it's not just if it's out of dire need, necessity, low education, or impoverishment. It is out of moral corruption, greed, but so I just want to say that race has nothing to do with if a person is a criminal or not, or more likely to be a criminal or not. Race has nothing to do with it. Every race on this earth has people in it who are morally corrupt or are impoverished. Um, and most of us are grouped together, right? We grouped around others who look like us, our ethnicity. So if you're in an Arab community, those Arab criminals are more likely to commit crimes against other Arabs. If you're in a black community, those black criminals are more likely to commit crimes against other blacks. And that goes for Asian. They're in an Asian community, more likely that their crimes are going to be against other Asians. So that is also one of the reasons why I do not agree or believe in the term black on black crime, because it is not real. It doesn't exist. Yes, blacks commit crime against other blacks. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're black, though, right? Black people are not committing crimes against their own because they're black. They are committing crimes against their own because their moral compass is corrupt. They are in dire need, and out of necessity feel that that's their only way to get what they need. Same for other races. Now, when it comes though to white people, that is a race who are committing crimes not just against their own, but they are targeting another racial group specifically because they're black and committing crimes against them, right? So that's the difference, and that's why although
blacks have committed crimes against each other, there will be outrage when this white race, who is known to hate other black people, um, are racist and are committing crimes against them. That's why that's a problem. The other reason why this is an unfair comparison and it has no correlation is when black people commit crime, they are prosecuted for it. Justice is served to them. And actually, even sometimes that justice is still an overkill through the law and through the system. And that's also specifically because they're black. But also, when these white people, whether a cop or just white or white and a cop, commit crimes against black people, it is a hate crime. They are doing it specifically because they hate the race of that person and they are not receiving justice for it. So these are the differences in the two. This is why it is an unfair comparison. This is why black on black crime is not a thing. No one has ever made or used the term white on white crime. White people actually commit the most crime in this nation. No, and they do it towards their own, the and black people. But anyway, they do it towards their own, and no one is calling the white on white crime. You're not calling the crimes that Arabs are committing against each other with these honor killings Arab on Arab crime. You're not calling Asians, the crime that they're committing against each other is Asian on Asian crime. So we're not going to make up this term that was created by white supremacists to try and divert attention away from them and also put the blame on their victims by throwing out this term black on black crime. And now we have black people who are being a spokesperson for these white supremacists and are using this term themselves. Because when you say, well, okay, let's not talk about, we're going to talk about white on black crime, let's talk about black on black crime, you are in a sense saying white on black crime is omitted, white on black crime is forgiven and is okay and should be looked over because there's black on black crime. That is what you are saying. And whites came up with that term to protect and try and use as a defense of why it's okay for them to commit crimes against blacks. And I don't understand why blacks would hear that saying and actually subscribe to it, to that ideology, because it's a false ideology. It is a corrupt ideology and it is non-existent. Just because black on black crime supposedly exists does not give another race the right with immunity to harm black people. That's the most ridiculous thing that I have ever heard. This concept of black on black crime and it being used as a defense of why we should not demand or want or require justice for hate crimes being done against us as black people. Because when a black person is harming another black person, they ain't got shit to do with their race. It has nothing to do with that. But when these white people are harming black people, it has everything to do with my race. That's a huge difference. They are not comparable. They do not correlate to each other, and it is a poor, weak, pathetic attempt to dismiss their moral corruption and their racism and hate crimes. So I would just wanted to point that out. The other thing is white people, white cops going out of their way to do overkill, to kill, murder, oppress black people is not okay. And a lot of people, one of the other excuses that they like to use for these white cops who are killing black people with immunity is that, oh, it's a dangerous job. They are having to make split second judgments for in these situations that they find themselves in that are high stress and all of that. Well, that does not give them an excuse or free reign to be judge, jury, and prosecutor and deal out these sentences, because that's what they're doing. When they take it upon themselves to take one of our lives, as a cop where it is unnecessary, their life is not in threat in any capacity, they are calling themselves Lord God, Jesus, executioner, and all of that. And that's not what they are hired or paid to do. Secondly, everyone knows what comes with the position of being a cop. You know that you are going to be in these situations that are compromisable and that can put your life at risk. You signed up for that and chose that position. If you cannot handle what comes with that position, then put it down. Don't go for it. Don't go for it. Especially when you look at the fact that cops, the majority of the aggressors that they come into contact with who have weapons, who actually are attempting to harm their being, are white. And guess what? I've seen a million videos. It's a million instances of where a white person had a weapon and was actually attempting to harm them, and they were able to de-escalate that situation in in these split-second scenarios. They were able to disarm them without harming them. They were able to de-escalate the situation. Yet they're encountering black people where there is no weapon, where there is no resistance, any threat to their life or safety, and they're killing us dead. So I'm also not falling for that bullshit ass excuse. You got a bulletproof vest on. You have had several hours, or at least should have had several hours of training on how to handle these type of situations. Clearly you know how and are capable of handling these situations because you do it all the time with white criminals who are threatening your life and have weapons, and they seem to always make it out alive, you, the cops, as well as the assailants. So I'm not about to accept this bullshit excuse of they're in dangerous professions, having to make these split minute decisions. And no, I'm not falling for that. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And I see through it. And I also notice how their favorite I've seen videos where a white assailant with a weapon was resisting the hell out of them. Never heard them once say stop resisting. They disarm that assailant, get them down, handcuff them. I've seen it where not only do this person got a weapon and trying to attack them, they are able to do it without breaking a sweat, without pulling out their bully club, beating them, without pulling out their gun and shooting, without kicking and strangling them and all that. Yet we have black men who we've seen on video not have a weapon, not resisting, complying, and yet you're beating the hell out of them, you're pulling out weapons on them, and some are losing their lives at the same time. And that's bullshit. This is solely based off race. You don't take that job then if you can't handle the pressure or stress that come with it. The other thing is, you're a cop. We're holding you. You are on a pedestal. You are being held to a higher standard to protect, to preserve, to serve life, the civilians, the community. So it is not okay for you to so-called be out here losing your cool, making bad decisions, bad calls, bad judgment calls while on duty. We don't accept it for any position, really. Lose your cool and act the fool on your customers, your clients, because that's what the public is. For a police officer, you serve us. We are why you're employed and what you're supposed to be focused on. Lose your cool, get out of character, don't follow protocol, and tell me if you keep your job. So that's not acceptable. And guess what? The reason why they don't do this to white people is because they know they can't get away with that shit. They know their job is going to tell them, no, you broke protocol, you're fired. They are doing it to blacks, though, because they're allowed to, and they're getting away with it. The government, the system, is essentially giving them a pass and telling them that's okay for you to do that because they're not facing any consequence for it. So they continue to do it. And they're not doing it to whites because they know they will face consequence for it because they're actually performing their job and its duties the way it's supposed to be amongst whites. So when we speak about police brutality that is largely and practically only
being done to black people. This is a race and a hate crime. This is moral corruption, just as a human being, individual. You're murderers with a badge. With your gang, they're a thug. Actually, they're caught. They're caught. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're doing, and we cannot say that it is okay for them to behave like this towards anyone, let alone us. And I don't care what crimes we have or could or have done to ourselves or anybody else. It is white people are the only ones who are out here not only committing crimes against themselves, but committing crimes and unthinkable, non-stop consecutive crimes against minority groups that they are targeting solely based off race. That's different from a black person committing a crime against another black person, because race ain't got shit to do with it. They're not in a position of power that is an honor to have, and that is supposed to come with a certain protocol, a certain temperament, a certain ideology, which is supposed to be to protect and serve. So I will not subscribe to this bullshit called black on black crime. It does not exist. It is not real, and it does not excuse white cops or white people committing crime against our own. That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. And don't think that I am attacking you if you may think or believe or have used that term black on black crime, or if it made sense to you. I'm not attacking you. I'm not saying that. I know where the term came from, and I know that it sounds kind of I don't know, because the nigga don't sound good to me. But anyway, I that's fine. I'm not saying that something's wrong with you. I'm just saying open your eyes and try and see it from another view, another perspective. And whether you still want to hold on to that ideology or not, that's your personal choice. You do that. But you should at least be willing to come to the table and say, okay, this is where you stand on it, and these are the things that you pointed out. Now let me digest that and see if that makes sense, if I can understand that perspective. Or maybe, you know what, now that you mentioned that, I agree with you. You're right. I never even thought of it from that point of view. Or even if you know, that's what I believe, that's how I feel, fine, that's for you. I just wanted to come and share my thoughts on it, especially since it's very relevant right now, with what's going on, that the term black on black crime was a racist term made up to dismiss, to dismiss, to divert attention from, to excuse racial hate crimes being committed against blacks by another racial group. For them to be able to say, well, y'all killing each other, so we can kill you. No, it don't work like that, and I'm not accepting that. That's unacceptable. That don't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Okay. If I curse my mom out because I got an attitude with my mom, that does not mean that I'm gonna let somebody from off the street come and curse my mom out just because I curse her out. And that's my mom. That's my family. We deal with our issues at home. You ain't about to get away with that shit. We not having that. So I guess maybe that's a bad analogy to try and use to convey what I'm trying to say, but it doesn't make sense. What you're doing is wrong. So I don't care. Two wrongs don't make it right. I don't care if blacks are committing crimes against black. Right? They're supposedly criminals, right? So you as a cop, you're not supposed to be a criminal. You're not supposed to be a thug. You're not supposed to be a bully. You're not supposed to be corrupt. Yet you are. You're supposed to be held to a higher standard. You're not supposed to be racist. You're supposed to be serving and protecting all the people equally the same. Yet you are not. So guess who I look at worse in this situation? Not the civilians who are criminals committing crimes against their own. I look at you, the cop, who's supposed to be above and beyond that, who's supposed to know better than that, who's supposed to be morally or spiritually superior in upholding the law. No, what you show me is that you're worse than a criminal, because you should know better. You've been given a title. You've been given power. You've been put on a pedestal to do exactly the opposite of what you're doing. So you are a low level thug. That's what I hear when you say that.
Oh, they killing, I want to kill. That's all I hear. Well, they're a criminal. Well, I can't be a criminal. No, that tells me that you're weak. That tells me that you are a more morally and sinister person than what the average criminal is. That's what that tells me. That's what that tells me. That you're scum. And I'm not going for that bullshit. So stop with that. Black people, right? We should not be harming each other. We should be coming together, especially since we know that we do have a race out there, people who have always hated us, oppressed us, using us as a natural resource. If they can't use us as a natural resource, then they feel we're better off dead. So right, should we be doing better towards each other? Yes, but blacks aren't mistreating blacks because they're black. They have more growing, learning to do. They need to be taught better. They need their moral compass calibrated. That's what that says to me. That does not in any way, shape, or form make me feel or think or believe that that gives another race of people a get out of jail free card to harm them just because they're black and they have committed crime. Especially when, first off, you are innocent until proven guilty. So these cops who are taking it upon themselves to do this, and we've seen in many of instances, they were innocent. They were not a threat, not to themselves or others. So it's unacceptable. That's all. Have a good day.